Hi, this is Pastor Dave. Welcome to the second message in our series on the book of Ecclesiastes called Vanity. This message is taglined, Drive It Home.
Let's read today a couple of verses in Proverbs. Proverbs 6:16-19 says, "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him, haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers." Just a little insight there on things that the Lord especially does not like. You hear people say a lot of times, well, sin is sin. That's true, but there are definitely some that he especially does not like. All right? That's just the truth. As you know, we have entered into a 4-week series on vanity. It's basically some pieces out of the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're going to talk about and look into some of the things that Solomon, the author of Ecclesiastes, was talking about, and vanity really is what he's talking about. The definition of vanity is, now vanity could be like Joe. Joe is, he walks in and is strutting around and dressed, nice, got the wavy gray going on. Not that kind of vanity, okay? Yeah, it's under protest. Not that kind of vanity. Vanity as in having the quality of being worthless or ineffective. Vain. Like the saying, if you try the same thing and keep failing, and you do the same thing and keep failing over and over, that's the definition of insanity. That is vanity. It's absolutely worthless to do that. That's vain. Today's tag is drive it home. The reason I chose drive it home is because God told me drive it home was the tag for the second one. And then I spent time going, what is that? What does that mean? Here's what it means. To make something clearly and completely understood. So there is something he wants to make clearly and completely understood today. Let's look at a couple of verses in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1. This one says, "What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted." This is talking about what God has made. What God has decided in certain places, we cannot change. God says to Moses in the story, the children of Israel are in Egypt, and Moses is out tending the sheep that his father-in-law owned, and he all of a sudden sees this bush that is on fire, but it's not consumed. If you've ever seen the Charlton Heston movie, The 10 Commandments, I think it's that where he brings them out of Egypt, all that, this is the beginning of the movie. He's in front of this bush, and God says, "Go free my people," and he's like, "Well, who am I? I can't go there." And he says, "I don't speak well." He probably stuttered. And God says to Moses, "Who made man mute or speaking? Who made man's eyes to see or be blind? Is it not I?" So there are some things. If you know someone who is deaf, they can't hear, or they're blind, except for the hand of God, those things, for the most part, cannot be changed. There are traits in my personality that I have to be aware of, or I can be a jerk, or I can be depressed. And he can change those things, but for the most part, he has made things in a specific way, because that's what he's intended to use to do whatever he's wanted to do, right? One thing I want to make really clear here is we are not in control. Okay? Let's read another verse in the same book. Ecclesiastes 7:13 says, "Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked?" Now it's interesting that he would use this term. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? I think a really great question is, who defines crooked? I think what he's saying here is, there are things that you think look crooked, and you'd like them to be made straight. But you're not going to straighten out what I've made crooked. Remember, Jesus and his disciples came up on a man who was born blind, and his disciples said, "Who made this man blind?" Or what made him blind, his sin or his parents' sin? And Jesus said, Neither his sin nor his parents' sin. He was born blind, literally, so God could be glorified in his life. There are people who are born with Down syndrome, with CP, with different things that are maladies to us. There's a gentleman that I've met in the past couple of weeks over at the nursing home. And he has a daughter who has, I think, CP, but is very disabled. And he said to me, when I look at her, I don't see a problem. I don't see retardation. I don't see physical issues. It's just my daughter. That's who she is. That's how she is. You know, and he would die for her, you know. But we see it as, well, it's not what we think it really should be, so that's crooked. But that's not how God sees things. In our lives, that's not how he sees things. We are not the owners. I'm going to think of a couple of stories in the Bible. There's a story where there's a wealthy landowner, and he's going out of town. So he puts some people, they're actually like renters of his land. They're in charge, and he leaves. And he sends messengers back, and they won't listen to anything he says. So he says, well, I'll send my son. They'll listen to my son. His son comes back. They beat him and kill him and throw him outside of the property. Now, in this place, do they own anything? No. There's another story where a landowner is going to go out of town, and he leaves 5 talents and 2 talents and 1 talent to 3 of his servants, right? And when he comes back, he expects that they made something with the money he's entrusted them with. The one buries it, makes nothing. He's the wicked servant, and that ended up given to a guy who doubled the money for his master, right? There's another story of a man who's putting on a dinner, and he sends out into the town for people to come in. How about Job? The story of Job. In any of these stories, who's in control? God's in control. He's in control. And I'm all of a sudden realizing that in all these stories, he's the one who's in control all the time, and usually is helping people and bringing people to a spot where they actually see his perspective instead of theirs. Right? The whole reason for the law was to bring us to a point to realize that we are helpless. I'm just going to throw a single word up here. In all of your life, think of the things that are yours. The things you think of as yours. That's mine. Like you, Jesse.
Hi.
Yours, right here. Like Jesse, he's mine. Right? People say, Jesse, yep, he's yours. I want to question this word totally. Everything there is. Nothing is yours. As we begin, we're walking into a new year. There are things he wants to do. And I want you to realize that in your entire life, nothing is yours. This is a really hard thing to get your brain around, but this is how God paints the world. We come in naked and illiterate, and we go out dressed but with nothing. We can take nothing with us. So everything we attach our lives to that we can't take with us is complete vanity. The only thing we can take with us through him is people. Right? People is it. So I want to look at a couple of specific things. Your home. Not yours. Some of these are not easy. Career, not yours. See the guy climbing? At the top, he's got a bullhorn. That means he gets to boss people around when he gets to the top. Not yours. Your family. Not yours. Sarah, my wife, not mine. I remember praying when Jesse was little. I'm not sure Caleb had been born yet. And Sarah and I, one night standing by his crib, prayed, Lord, help us to raise our little brother. And man, how that changed everything. Because when you raise a little brother, their success is theirs. It's not yours. As a dad, you kind of live through your kids. As a brother, you're just helping your little brother. But to see our kids as something we are stewarded and not something that we own. Their life's purpose is not to make us proud or to make us rich or to make us grandparents. That is not what their life is about. Their life is His. And we don't know His plan for their life or how He will get them from here to there. The only thing we can do is point them to Him. That's all we can do. As much as I would like to make decisions for my kids, I can't. It's part of the pizza rule. Some of you know what the pizza rule is. Who has heard me talk about the pizza rule? The pizza rule is, if all you've eaten your whole life is oatmeal, and you are perfectly happy with oatmeal, eat it every day. You like it. You've never had a meat lover's stuffed crust pizza. How do I convince you that this is worth tasting? You don't know what bacon tastes like. You don't know what pizza tastes like. All you know is oatmeal. The only way for you to know what it is that I know and experience is to put it in your face yourself. The life that comes from surrendering your life to Christ, I cannot describe to anybody. I would love to be able to take a handful of it out of my chest and stick it in their chest and let go and let it be, oh my goodness, this is what you mean. But I can't do that. Because the pizza rule dictates that the only way they can know is to experience it for themselves. There's a guy I met at the nursing home a week and a half ago. And I was walking in and I passed him and I came back and I said, I'm a pastor. Would you like me to pray for you before I go in? And he said, I don't believe in God. So all I said was, I would love to hear your story. And he kind of laughed. Well, in the past week, I've spent 6 or 7 hours with this guy, heard his story, got to know his disabled daughter, and he has gone from, how on earth could, just the first thing he says, I will come in there, is, everybody says, God has always existed, but everything has a beginning. Nothing doesn't have a beginning. And I said, well, you left 2 words out. Nothing we know doesn't have a beginning. And I said, here's the crazy thing. If the Big Bang was real and it happened and everything came to be in an instant, literally nothing exploded into everything we know, if that was real, what was there right before the bang? I said, your brain demands that there was a color, a smell, something, because there can't be nothing. I said, so your brain thinks, well, God can't be eternal because everything has a beginning, but you also refuse to believe that there was ever nothing. So you believe there was always something, just not Him. And he said, I've never thought of it that way. And I said, well, you just have 2 separate thoughts that you've never brought together in the same field of view. And we've had these awesome conversations. And he used to lay in his bed at night, or sit in his chair, because he doesn't have a bed, sit in his chair at night and look at the same ceiling tile every night and curse God. And I went in to see him and he said, when I was falling asleep last night, I looked at that same ceiling tile and I said, I know it's not your fault. And they were going to move his daughter, and this was he was so stressed out about this. And he said, I decided to just let go. And he didn't want her to be moved. I decided to just let go. The next morning, about 7 o'clock, one of the head people of the nursing home came to his room and said, the facility we were going to move your daughter to has refused her. She's going to be here for a while. Like he just started to let God in, to let God drive a little bit. And God did the things he had been trying to do on his own for a long time because he thought he owned it. He thought it was his world. And maybe God would help him drive a little bit. What he needed to do was hand the keys over and get in the passenger seat and begin to trust. And all of a sudden, some things started happening. I'm telling you, this person is a pivotal person in some way in God's impact on Gowanda, New York. I know that he is. I can't tell you how, but I know that he is. Jim was talking, I almost thought he was going to share when he said there are homeless people. There's a young man in this town that I have been dealing with for 10 years easy. A lot of you have met him before. He's a good kid with a rough life upbringing, doesn't always make great decisions. So here's what happened this week. He shows up at my store. I don't know what to do. Don't have a place to stay. I've been bumming it outside for the past couple days. I'm hungry. I don't have anything. The clothes on his back are all he has. And a shovel at a friend's house that he shovels snow to try and make a couple of bucks. We get in contact through God setting it up with a local ministry, and today he's in a church service and he has a place to live and he's working for the ministry that is helping him. Literally working full time. And they've hooked him up with some part-time work, some farm work, but he has gone from sitting in my office, I don't believe in God. I've tried this, I've tried that, I don't believe in him. If he loves me, why does he do this? To in the car with Jim going, I'm starting to understand. And he said, I know Pastor Dave didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and this other person from this ministry didn't do this. He goes, God's doing this for me. This kid's life is completely changed in 2 days. I'm excited. I'm hoping he grabs a hold of this and runs with it. But you know what? The people he's working with and for at the ministry are building value in him. And he went from I need help to I'm helping. He's helping in a food pantry. He's helping clean up a ministry center. It's awesome. God's changing his life. It's totally awesome. I want to ask you, as a parent, when do you step in with your kids and shake up the toys? Think of the moments when one kid's bullying another kid, two kids are fighting over a used Band-Aid. I mean, they'll fight over anything. If one of them has something and pretends they're interested, the other one will fight them for it. We will clip this out, but I'm about to tell you something. My dad used to say to my brother and I, you guys would fight over a fart. And he didn't mean who did it. He mean we would fight over the fart. Who got to have it? I don't know. He's like, you guys would fight over anything. It's true though. So as a parent, when do you step in? You step in when all of a sudden one of the kids has the wrong idea about either who's the boss or what they own or what they get to do or who they can tell to do what or what they get to destroy with a pool cue or whether or not they get to throw big heavy things at windows or swing the cat around by their tail or lock their brother out on the deck in the snow and lock the door and wave in their underwear. I mean, this is the things they do. And you step in. Why? Because they're not in control. They don't own the place. It's okay for you as a parent to go, because I said. I thought that was the most unjust answer a parent could ever give. As a child, I swore I was going to become the president and make that illegal, that phrase, because I deserve an explanation as a human being. I can't do that. You should be able to tell me why. I have learned now that it is more complicated than that. I don't have time for why half the time. And because I am the boss, is perfectly legitimate. So we do this. And our kids think we're not fair. I protested an answer I got from Caleb this week where I said, Caleb, get off the table. Why is he on the table? I said, what you're saying is, Dad, you're totally unfair. Dad, you're stupid. To question, why is he on the table? You're saying, well, obviously your judgment is poor here because my brother is on the table and you're yelling at me. And I said, I do not ever want the response ever again to be, but he, go clean your room, but he. I don't want to ever hear that again. But we gauge our world based on what someone else has, what we think is fair. They have this and I don't. They did this and I didn't. They got away with this and I didn't. Why do I have to do this? Well, if God asks me to give $100 toward this, and why didn't he ask Linda to do that? Why? Here's the thing. It's not yours, and you're not the boss. And that's a perfectly legitimate answer. Your money, not yours. Decisions. Where you will work, what you will buy, how you will do this and that, not yours. Your rights. We have certain inalienable rights. Actually, one. To recognize that he's the boss and live for him. That is our right. Sorry, there's two. He's given us the right to choose to do whatever it is we want to do. But we also have the right to recognize that there are consequences for choosing things outside of what he's designed. If you put manure in the gas tank, it ain't going to run right. That's kind of how it works. Doesn't matter if that's fair. That's how it works. A soft answer turns away wrath. So if your boss chews you out and you decide to slug him, it's not going to work well. That's just universally true whether you recognize the Bible's authority or not. That's just true. Okay? You realize that there are things that are true because the Bible said they're true and God made them that way, and atheists can play those rules perfectly fine because the rules are true regardless of whether or not you know where they came from. Okay? So your rights are not yours. Your dreams. I believe God puts drive and dreams and goals in people's lives. But recognize that your dreams, the thing you dream of doing in your life, is not yours. I would love to be really successful in some field professionally. I would love that. That is likely not what I am called to in my life. Oddly enough, my brother is called to that, which is just one of those things. It's really good. It's like a soul scrubber. Like, I can sit and think of my brother, and I'm so happy for the things he's done and the things he's accomplished and what he's been able to achieve. And God will use that to say, do you know what pleases me, that I'm happy with what I've called you to? Because I can tell you absolutely I'm standing in the place I was called to be in. Every job I've had, everything I've done up till now is what he's had for me. So it's not that I just haven't done things. I'm where he's called me to be. Are you? Are you satisfied with his plan? Because your dreams are not yours. Time, not yours. Resources. This is all kinds of things. And I think it's interesting that the enter button says resources because we can make all kinds of plans and have desires, but until resources are there to do them with, nothing goes. Once resources come into the picture, God supplies that or whatever, resources hit and now things happen. Your resources are not yours. And as we sung earlier, your breath is not yours. It's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs. So we lift up our praise. We lift up our praise. The word says that all things are literally held together by the word of his power. Everything's his. So yours, stop. Not yours. Okay, I want to show you a picture. Now, I did the research. No one was seriously injured in this accident. Okay? I would not want to make light of any incident where someone was killed or seriously hurt. No one was seriously hurt in this crash. Did you notice that? Did you notice the semi tipped over behind the car? I constantly use this analogy of I can't, you can, please do, here's the keys. You know, the fact of the matter is that everything in our lives is owned by him. There is a plan. My time, my family, my home, my resources, my dreams, my plans, everything is his. And he wants to do specific things with it, but he can't if I'm driving the car. When I jump in my life's car and I decide where I want to go, how fast, with who, this stuff happens. And sometimes we get into a point in our life and we wonder why God's not fair. When we wreck the car, it would be like Jesse taking my truck and wrapping it around a tree and then blaming me for it. I wasn't in the car. Sometimes God's like, how's that working for you? And he gets blamed for it. He doesn't crash cars like this. He will drive them in cold weather with the windows down sometimes. He'll drive you in a junky car sometimes, super great car sometimes, someone else's car sometimes. But he doesn't cause all kinds of damage in his plan when he's driving. In the car that God has put us in, our lives, there is no supplemental brake pedal on the right-hand side. He just lets us drive. He lets us pick who's behind the wheel. But we don't even own the car. One more verse. Romans 11:33-36 says, "Oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable are his judgments and how inscrutable his ways! For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has said to him, how come he got that? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever." I missed a phrase. Or who has given a gift to him that he might be repaid? This is literally asking, who has ever given anything to God? The resources, time, your life, your everything that you give him is his to begin with. Right? Jesse, would you help me do something? Come here. I do have $1. All right. Now, if I take this $1 and I give it to Jesse, Jesse's mind is already thinking of what he's going to spend this on. Or, in Jesse's world, not spend it on. Because Jesse saves all his money and thinks of ways to get things without spending his money. Now, some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, if when I give this money to him, his brain's thought is, mine now, what am I going to do with it? And we go into town later today and see a little boy in a store who would like a little $1 pair of mittens, and I say, let's use that $1 for that. He's going to think, sucker, why did you give that to me? I was going to spend it on a Lamborghini.
$1.
Yeah. They add up after a while.
Great.
Now, if I were to give him, you can keep it. You can sit down. If I was to give him $1,000, but his mindset was, I wonder what we're going to use that for. If his mindset was, I've been entrusted with $1,000 that my dad gave me. And his attitude was to come to me and say, hey, my laptop has got some issues. I'd like to get it fixed. It's going to cost about $400. You think it would be wise to use some of that money that you gave to me for that? Perfect attitude. Because if I say, hey, we're going to use that $1,000 and we're going to take 600 of it and we're going to do this and bless this person, he has not attached to that money as if it's his. He may very well be blessed with it. He can come to me with suggestions of things that would bless his life to spend it on. But when he doesn't see it as his, he's not crushed and really upset when I say, let's do this with it. Because he recognizes that although it's in his possession and may very well bless his person, it's not his. Does that make sense? That is how we need to see everything we have. Is it in our possession? Yes. Our time is in our possession. All of our resources, our homes, our families, our dreams, our plans, it's all in our possession. But we need to look at it that way. How will he decide to use it? Lord, I'm thinking of selling my house and kind of moving over here. Just, if you don't want me to do that, slam a door. Just let me know in some way. That's the attitude he's looking for. He's not a tyrant. He has a plan that's very good, but he needs you to let him work that plan out. Okay? All right. Let's pray as we close.
As we wrapped our service up this day, we began to just ask God to impact us by helping us to see his possession of everything in our lives. That we would begin to let go and be open to the possibility that he had some plans and maybe wanted to do some things we hadn't thought about. We prayed that he would help us to hold things loosely so that when he decided to do something, it wasn't such a torturous thing to let go. I pray that this message impacted you, and as always, you can visit us on Facebook. You can email me directly if you'd like to at davegableaog@gmail.com. Hope these messages are blessing you, and we look forward to having you back here on our YouTube channel again soon. Have a blessed week.